The story begins in 1939 when World War II started in Europe and spread to several countries. Every day, thousands of Jews were marched to gas chambers to their deaths. It didn't take long before 6 million Jews died. One man, Adolf Hitler, was behind all this. His wish was to eradicate all the Jewish population, but also whoever was not of a pure race. Another key player in all this was Adolf Eichmann, the man in charge of organizing the deportation of Jews to the death camps. But after the war, he escaped to Buenos Aires, Argentina. But even there, someone recognized him and tipped off the Israeli government.
Who's there? Who's there?
Eichmann, who was now living under the name of Ricardo Clement in Argentina, did not know one thing. The Mossad, the Israeli Secret Service, was onto him.
What is your name?
I have told you. Otto Henniger.
What is your name?
My name is Ricardo Clement.
Are you scared to tell me your name?
Who are you?
I am a Jew. What is your name?
My name is Adolf Eichmann, SS number 45326. I was a lieutenant colonel in the Third Reich in service to Adolf Hitler.
Well, Eichmann, you have just received an official invitation to travel to Israel with a first-class ticket.
To be murdered?
No, that's what you did to my family.
Then for what else?
To face a trial.
I will not do it.
Why?
You want me to admit to crimes I did not commit.
No, quite the opposite. By signing this document, you will be eligible for a fair trial.
Your words amuse me. I am not signing any document.
My entire family was killed in the massacre of Jews in Germany.
I am genuinely sorry to hear that.
I do not need you to be sorry. Help me find justice.
How will I do that?
By agreeing to be tried.
Justice is what we all seek. But I'm afraid that justice for the Jews is not in my hands. I was a simple pawn in the great chess game that was the war. I cannot agree to sign this document.
Why?
Signing this means only one thing to me.
We should just kill him now and pretend he escaped.
No, we're not murderers like him.
It means I've admitted to the crimes of another man.
No, that is incorrect. The Israeli government wants the truth, nothing but the truth.
The truth. Always the truth. I, Adolf Eichmann, state here of my own free will, since my true identity has been revealed, there is no longer any point in evading justice. Therefore, I will travel to Israel to stand trial before a competent court.
Please sign this. Well, Eichmann, are you ready to meet Jews?
When do we fly?
Now!
After this, Eichmann was smuggled to Israel after being drugged for the entire journey. On May 23, 1960, the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. David Ben-Gurion, made a special announcement.
A short time ago, Adolf Eichmann, one of the worst Nazi war criminals, responsible for the final solution, the extermination of 6 million European Jews, was captured by the Israeli Secret Services, the Mossad, and brought to Jerusalem to face a trial. He is currently under arrest in an Israeli prison.
The trial was about to begin. It was televised in Israel and all over the world. Countless Jews had traveled from several parts of the world to witness and give testimonies. Now, to build a case against Adolf Eichmann, the Israeli government created the Bureau 06 of the National Police Headquarters. The primary function of this group was to collect evidence against Adolf Eichmann. Several years ago, for instance, The Nuremberg trials revealed that Eichmann was responsible for orchestrating the death of Jews in gas chambers.
The date is April 11th, 1961. The presiding judge is Moshe Landau. Attorney General Gideon Hausner leads the prosecution. In this trial, Adolf Eichmann will be defended by Dr. Robert Servacius, who was known for defending war criminals during the famous Nuremberg trials in 1946. All rise!
This is Court Criminal Case number 4061. The Attorney General versus Adolf Eichmann, the son of Adolf Karl Eichmann. On behalf of the prosecution, in person, Mr. Gideon Hausner, Attorney General. The accused and his counsel, Dr. Robert Servacius. Adolf Eichmann. Are you Adolf Eichmann, the son of Adolf Karl Eichmann?
Jawohl.
Are you represented in this trial by Dr. Robert Servacius?
Jawohl.
I will read the counts against the accused, Adolf Eichmann. Adolf Eichmann, you are charged with an indictment containing 15 counts before this court. I shall read the charges to you. Charge 1. Ultimately responsible for the murder of millions of Jews. Charge 2. Placed these Jews before they were murdered in living conditions designed to kill them. Charge 3. Caused them grave physical and mental harm. Charge 4. Took actions that resulted in the sterilization of Jews and otherwise prevented childbirth. Charge 5. Caused the enslavement, starvation, and deportation of millions of Jews. Charge 6. Caused general persecution of Jews based on national, racial, religious, and political grounds. Charge 7. Spoiled Jewish property by inhuman measures involving compulsion, robbery, terrorism, and violence. Charge 8. Committed punishable war crimes. Charge 9. Deported 500,000 Polish. Charge 10. Deported 14,000 Slovenes. Charge 11. Deported tens of thousands of Gypsies. Charge 12. Deported and murdered 100 Czech children from the village of Lidice. The final 3 charges, 13, 14, and 15, involve membership in organizations judged criminal by the Nuremberg trials, the SD, Gestapo, and SS. First 12 counts of the indictment each carried the death penalty as the maximum punishment. Immediately after the outbreak of World War II, the accused was appointed to head of the Gestapo department in Berlin, the functions of which were to locate, deport, and exterminate the Jews of Germany and other countries. Instructions for carrying out the plan of extermination in Germany were given directly by the accused. In Auschwitz, 1 million Jews were exterminated in gas chambers, incinerators, shooting, and hanging. The accused directed the commanders of this camp to use the gas Zyklon B, and during the years 1942 and 1945 took steps to ensure the supply of gas to exterminate Jews. In the following camps of Chelmno, Sobibor, Treblinka, and Majdanek, he ordered the use of poisonous gas. Will the defendant make his case, Dr. Servacius?
I plead with the court to request permission to express an objection before the accused states whether he is guilty. First, my fear applies to the worry of prejudice on the part of the judges. Also, I must express my anxiety about the lack of competence of this court, because the law for punishing Nazis and their collaborators contradicts the law of nations. Also, the accused was seized forcibly and kidnapped before being brought to this court. Furthermore, the law for punishing Nazis and their collaborators of August 10, 1950, seeks to provide punishment regarding persons and acts before the existence of the State of Israel, outside the present boundaries of the state, which wronged persons who were not residents of the State of Israel at the time.
Mr. Hausner, do you have any objection to this?
No, not for now.
Please proceed, Dr. Servacius.
We do contest the judge's ability to be impartial. We assert that the Nazi punishment law was invalid because it was extraterritorial and ex post facto. My client, Mr. Eichmann, was not part of the leadership that made decisions, but he only carried them out and could not resist carrying out these orders. I'll also mention that Israel did not even exist when the alleged crimes occurred. So, this court has no jurisdiction.
It's undoubtedly true that the memory of the Holocaust stirs every Jew to the depths of his heart. When it comes time for a court to pass judgment, the judge is still flesh and blood, with feelings and senses. But the law requires him to restrain those feelings and senses, because otherwise there will never be a judge fit to sit in a criminal case where the hatred of the judge is aroused. The court finds that each judge is fit to sit in judgment in this case. Adolf Eichmann, do you plead guilty or not guilty to the charges?
In the terms of the indictment, not guilty.
He's a killer who deserves to die.
We want to watch him burn.
You take my father from me.
Make him suffer for his crimes. We want justice.
We want revenge.
Order in the court! Please remove these men. Please proceed. Please, Mr. Hausner, begin the session.
When I stand before you here, judges of Israel, to lead the prosecution against Adolf Eichmann, I do not stand alone. With me are 6 million accusers, but they cannot rise to their feet and point an accusing finger towards the man who sits in the dock and say, I accuse. For the ashes are piled up on the hills of Auschwitz, the fields of Treblinka, and are strewn in the forests of Poland. Their graves are scattered throughout Europe. Their blood cries out, but their voice is not heard. Therefore I will be their spokesman, and in their name I will unfold the terrible indictment against Adolf Eichmann. True, we have specific knowledge of only one incident in which Adolf Eichmann beat to death a Jewish boy who had dared to steal a fruit. And his word put gas chambers into action. He lifted the telephone and trains left for the extermination camps. His signature sealed the doom of millions of Jews. He was the one who planned, initiated, and organized so that others would spill this ocean of blood, using all the means of torture, theft, and murder. This man was Adolf Eichmann.
Adolf Eichmann, what can you say about your involvement with Department 4B4?
Department 4B4 never received orders to kill. 4B4 had nothing to do with that. Its role was to transport the convicted Jews to the death camps.
But you were the head of this department.
Jawohl, Your Honor.
How then do you deny involvement with the fact that your actions led to the death of many Jews?
All I did was follow the orders of my superiors, Hitler, Heydrich, Himmler.
But you deny any personal connections with these deportations and killings.
Jawohl, Your Honor.
In your own words, you were following orders.
Jawohl, Your Honor.
Let's proceed with the first witness.
I call Dr. Yosef Burzminski to the witness stand. Dr. Burzminski, do you remember any particular event in the Jewish ghetto?
When I first returned to the ghetto, things had become rough. I saw Schlumberger, an SS officer, whipping a Jewish boy on the ground. Being a doctor, I counted the blows. I counted 80 of them.
Did you try to do anything?
No.
Why is that?
We knew how it worked. If you interfered in the business of the soldiers, you could be shot for no reason.
Do you know what happened to this little boy?
Yes, I do.
Who is he? Do you see the little boy who received these whippings in the court?
Yes, he is in the court.
Can you please point him with your finger to the court to see? Is this Officer Goldman, the prosecutor, sitting right next to me?
Yes, this is Officer Mickey Goldman.
A symbolic moment. The boy, humiliated, tortured, and whipped, had become the prosecutor of Adolf Eichmann's trial. Justice personified. How do you heal a broken nation? You give them a voice. Thank you, Dr. Buzminski. Your Honor, I would like to proceed with showing the films as part of the evidence.
Mr. Hausner, please call your next witness.
I call Mr. Yael Denour to the witness stand. Mr. Yael Denour, are you a writer?
I do not regard myself as a writer of literature. I write chronicles about the planet of Auschwitz. The inhabitants of this planet had no names. Their name was just an inmate number. There they did not dress the way we did.
Is this what you used to wear?
This is the garb of the planet of Auschwitz. I believe that I can stand before you here today and recall the events on that planet. If I, who fell from that planet, can be here now, I believe with perfect faith that this is due to the oath I swore to them there. They gave me this strength. This oath was the armor with which I acquired the supernatural power that allowed me to live after the period of Auschwitz. The 2 years when I was a living skeleton to withstand it. For they left me. They parted from
Listen
me.
to me, Mr. Denour.
They are
One
staring
moment.
right
Listen to me.
at me. Oh.
Quiet, please. Please stay in your seats, I pray you. Everyone, stay where you are. He's fine. He just needs to rest. Mr. Hausner, please call your following witness.
I call the psychologist Dr. Gilbert to the witness stand. Dr. Gilbert, at the Nuremberg trials, you spoke with many key figures involved in the extermination of Jews. I'd like to know, as a psychologist, if you managed to form an impression of the murderous personality of an SS officer.
Your Honor, it should be clear by now that the witnesses must give evidence about the central theme of this trial, which is whether it can be proved that the defendant committed these crimes. This expert lacks what has already been presented to the court. We namely want documents that prove the defendant's responsibility. That is what this trial should be based on, not the opinion of some expert. Therefore, I do not believe that we should hear evidence from this witness on these points.
What is the purpose of these questions, Mr. Hausner?
How can a human being commit the kind of acts presented today? I'm sure this psychologist might be the most qualified person to answer this question.
But is this a legal question? It's undoubtedly an interesting psychological question, but is it relevant to the legal question, Mr. Hausner?
It's relevant to one issue we must address. How can we believe all of this? It is essential to prove that it is possible to deal with such personality, which I don't think we will encounter again.
Rule number 60. We shall not permit evidence tending to show that the defendant was capable, from the point of view of his personality, of committing the crimes with which he is charged by the general rules that limit the admission of evidence regarding a defendant's personality. Dr. Servitius.
Dr. Gilbert, one question. Was it not the primary concern of the Nuremberg defendants to straighten out, so to speak, the issue of the Holocaust?
Certainly, they would want to throw the responsibility on each other. I think that's what you mean.
Wasn't it so convenient for them to find a single man to blame? If so, wouldn't it have been even more convenient to find a disappeared man? Or, even better, one believed dead?
Yes, it's plausible, but...
That's enough. That's enough. Thank you.
No. We'll hear his whole answer.
It is plausible, but unlikely. because the defendants didn't blame it all on Eichmann. If they blamed it on any one person, it was Hitler. But when it came to the question of who implemented those orders, those who spoke knowingly about the extermination all mentioned Eichmann.
I want to state that these are all just allegations, but not facts. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert.
The prosecution had completed its presentation of evidence. During the 74 sessions, the Attorney General has presented more than 1,400 incriminating pieces of evidence to the court. The testimonies of the 112 prosecution witnesses comprise over 5,000 pages. On June 20th, 1961, the defense will have the floor.
I open the 75th session. Will the defendant rise? Do you wish to testify in your defense? You may testify under oath or without an oath. You also have the right to remain silent. If you testify under oath, the Attorney General can cross-examine you. What do you wish to do?
Testify under oath.
Please place your right hand on the Bible.
I do not swear by the Bible, but by God. I am not religious, but I do believe in God.
We shall permit you to swear in a form you find binding. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear by God.
I swear by God
That my testimony in this trial
that my testimony in this trial
will be the truth,
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Dr. Servicius.
Defendant, you joined a political party, the platform of which included the persecution of Jews. Can you briefly tell the court why you joined such a party and what you have to say about the persecution of Jews?
Hitler became head of state. After the surrender of Parliament and the death of Hindenburg, he also became the absolute ruler of Germany. After the first quick victories in the war that was forced upon Germany, the state leadership at the time instituted several senseless, unrestricted measures against Jews. This brought about the tragedy no one could have foreseen, especially not I, as I was too insignificant. That is my answer to your question.
No, that wasn't an answer. There's no need to go into this kind of detail. I'm going to say this in German because this is important. Now isn't a time to make general observations unless the defense or the prosecution asks you. You're being asked specific questions and must give particular answers wherever possible.
Defendant, will you share your opinion of Zionism?
At the time, my superiors ordered me to force the Jews to leave. Therefore, it became my responsibility to support Zionism by causing the Jews to emigrate to Palestine. The sole desire that guided me was to suggest that the Jews, and I said this again and again, should have a land of their own. Now, I realize this is unbelievable, or at least hard to believe, but the documents back me up.
In your police interrogation, you said you felt guilty. Will you tell the court your attitude for guilt now?
As I sit here today, the question of guilt is tricky to answer, because there can be no guilt where there is no responsibility. Orders and obedience are the basis of all organized states. It is up to the head of state to take responsibility. Where the state leadership is good, the subordinate is lucky. Where it is terrible, the subordinate is unlucky. I was unlucky. Because the head of state at the time issued an order to exterminate the Jews, I had to obey. I was in uniform. It was wartime. That is what I wanted to say on that question.
We'll proceed to the defendant's cross-examination. You will now answer the Attorney General's questions. Mr. Hausner, please proceed.
Defendant, during your interrogation, you said the following: I know that I would be found guilty of being an accomplice to murder. I do not ask for mercy, for I do not deserve it. Are you prepared to repeat this in court?
I stand by the words I say in that statement.
So you admit, therefore, that you were an accomplice to the murder of millions of Jews?
Guilty from a human point of view. I had to carry out some of the deportations, and yes, Jews were deported and killed. In this regard, I must admit I played my part, albeit under orders.
Now, do you in your heart consider yourself guilty of being an accomplice to the murder of millions of Jews? Yes or no?
No, I cannot admit that. From a legal perspective, as someone who received orders, I had no choice but to carry out the orders I received. This began during the course of emigration.
But in the course of emigration, the Jews lost their property because they weren't allowed to bring it with them, correct?
That's correct, but not my fault.
So your department also dealt with Jews who were arrested as a result of the outbreak of the war?
Yes, if I was ordered to do so.
You signed this?
Jawohl, yes, that was the telegram I had to use, by the decision of my department.
To place Jews in extermination camps was the responsibility of your department.
I could only do what I was ordered. I had no choice other than to obey orders. It depended entirely upon the orders of my superiors. Orders were orders.
Every Jew who emigrated from Austria enriched the German Reich. Isn't that true?
Ultimately, in retrospect, yes.
And the more Jews you forced to emigrate, the more you enriched the German Reich, correct?
I did nothing to enrich myself, since I always acted upon orders. Besides, emigration was the only way among many unpleasant possibilities. Indeed, it was the best option compared to other options.
But do you agree that by having forced the Jews to emigrate, you enriched the Reich with their property?
Mr. Hausner, this already presents a conclusion.
We'll come back to that topic shortly. Is it fair to say that your department controlled all the Jewish life in the Third Reich?
No, that would not be correct. The Reich Security Head Office was divided into 7 departments. Several of those departments had officials in charge who dealt with Jewish matters. The documents clearly show this.
I am asking about facts, not about documents.
Those are the facts, Attorney General.
You control the Jewish life in the Third Reich.
No, that is not correct. The documents tell the truth and confirm what I just said.
It says so in the documents. Do you want to see it?
Yes, please, if I may.
I'll show it to you in a bit. I can find the document I was thinking of. An official document from the German Foreign Ministry, Exhibit 991, opens with the words, "In the opinion of the Reich SS leadership, SS Obersturmbannführer EICHMANN." So you were the Reich SS leadership on Jewish affairs. How can you deny it?
I mustn't deny it at all. It's just a mistake that does not conform to the facts. If it did, I would have the courage to admit it.
I want to understand this. If the Attorney General is wrong, how and why did your name land in this document?
Because I provided the information, Your Honor.
In other words, all you did was pass the information along.
Jawohl, Your Honor, yes, that's exactly what I mean.
And you expect us to believe you passed the information along like a messenger boy with a megaphone when the Foreign Ministry called you a senior SS official?
Jawohl, like that. Exactly like that.
Silence! Silence in the courtroom! What we're talking about here is no laughing matter.
Are you telling us that he dictated this reply to you like you were his secretary? Were you an officer or an office secretary?
There are 1,600 documents here.
No, answer me. Do you think anyone would believe that?
If people read the documents, they would believe me and realize it's not false.
Oh, when someone writes, he decided it's false. When they write, EICHMANN says it's not true. We shouldn't believe any of this. We should believe only you, Mr. EICHMANN.
No, not me, Attorney General. Although I am trying to speak the truth, you should believe the documents, and I would ask...
These are the documents! Does even Adolf Eichmann exist without documents? Or is Adolf Eichmann just a collection of 1,600 documents that the police managed to find? Fine. Let's talk about these 1,600 documents. In Hungary, for instance, when the German embassy, God forbid, chas v'chalila, wasn't doing enough to prevent the immigration of Jews towards Israel, you immediately took action.
I must reject this document as a forgery. It has no registry number, no letterhead, no certification, no seal of service. And besides, it is a copy. It is inexplicable to me how such a document could exist. These are not my words.
Well, I suppose you regard Exhibit 1215 as a forgery too. It states that you do not accept the new order regarding the immigration of Jews to Israel. Naturally, that's a forgery too, Mr. Eichmann.
No, not a forgery.
So that was your attitude towards Zionism.
I don't know. All I know is that from now on I will no longer be commenting or answering any further questions. I consider these documents to be untrue, inauthentic, and incorrect for the reasons I've explained.
You will continue to answer questions until I've released you from doing so.
Yes, Your Honor, I am prepared to do so. But I can't escape the feeling that I am being grilled here like a well-done steak based on something full of holes, as I can easily demonstrate.
Toward the end of the war, you told several people that you would gladly jump into your grave, knowing that 5 million people died together with you.
When I said those words, I was not referring to the Jews. At the time, the Russians and the American fleet were our enemies. Those are the enemies I was referring to. I stand by what I said because those were my words. But then those words were thrown about and twisted. I don't know how else to explain it.
But during your interrogation by the police on this same topic, you said that 5 million Jews died during the war. So both things are true. You stated that you would gladly jump into your grave in the knowledge that 5 million Jewish enemies of the Reich had gone with you.
No, I never said 5 million Jewish enemies of the Reich.
Fine. Let's examine the transcript, since I know you love documents so much.
Yes, this is a summary of all the victims of the war, an estimate. But I would deny that I was even thinking of the Jews because at that time...
I don't want to hear any because. I want an answer.
It was a rhetorical figure. It wasn't the main point I was making. The main point was that the Reich had been defeated, but that the enemies of the Reich also paid their toll for having violently destroyed the Reich. It is essential to understand my state of mind at the time. The Reich I believed in was about to collapse, and there was nothing I could do about it. It would have been odd for me to have praised the enemies of the Reich while they were blasting it to pieces.
In 1956, one transcription of the tapes from your interview with Willem Sassen, a Dutch journalist, in which you said, no matter what, you must kill all the Jewish children. What is the point of killing a generation and leaving their kids alive? You take the risk of leaving a generation of revengeful Jews who would find us no matter where we hide in the world. It was a necessity of killing Jewish children.
The field is the field, and orders were orders.
The idea for the death march of the Jews from Budapest to Austria was your idea.
No, it came from the chief of police, the SS, and Feisenmeyer.
It was your idea, and you applied for authorization from the police and the SD.
That's not what happened.
The transcripts state, if the Allies had bombed the Reich's railways, let the Jews go by foot. You said, if the Allies had bombed the Reich's railways, let the Jews go by foot. Nachon? Isn't that so?
In principle, that was true in Hungary, but I did not initiate the march.
You did not give the order, it came from the police, but you were the person who suggested it.
Hardly possible. I was in Berlin.
I know it was you. In your opinion, is someone involved in exterminating Jews a criminal?
He is an unfortunate man.
Is he a criminal, yes or no?
I cannot answer, as I have never been in such a situation.
You saw your superior, Rudolf Höss, doing this in Auschwitz.
Exterminating Jews?
Yes.
Yes, I did see him.
At the time, did you consider him a criminal?
I told him I could never do what he had been ordered to do.
That's not my question. My question is, in your heart, did you consider him a murderer?
Deep down,
No, in your heart.
this question affects me personally. I do not intend to discuss it today. The dictates of my conscience are for myself alone.
You will have to answer this now. How did you regard Höss when you saw him murder Jews? You must reply now. Was he a criminal or not? You must reply to this now. Was he a criminal or not? You cannot evade this question. You have to answer this now. Was he a criminal or not?
I felt sorry for him.
Did you regard him as a criminal or not?
I shall never reveal my innermost feelings.
You cannot evade this question. How did you consider the extermination process and those who participated?
How each person reacts depends on the individual. I cannot give an opinion as to the behavior of a person receiving such an order, for those questions are a matter of individual conscience.
Oh, in other words, Höss was not a criminal.
No, that's not what I said. Your Honor, I should like to answer this question in more detail. This is a matter that depends on the feelings of each individual. When I first saw dead people, dead Jews, I was shocked. This reaction affected my nerves. It stayed with me. It continued to affect me. Under the influence of these events, which I had to witness, I asked my chief several times to please, for God's sake, release me from this duty. Although you might think I'm trying to put myself in a better light to influence the outcome of this trial, that would be far from the truth. That is not my intention. I intend to tell the truth. I saw no justification for this violent solution. That is what I wish to say.
Is everything fine, Mr. Eichmann?
I thought I recognized a familiar face.
Indeed, at that time, Eichmann recognized Zvi Aroni, the Mossad agent who captured him and sat in the audience to attend the trial. Zvi waved his hand at him. Now, the judge will recess before giving its verdict. All rise!
This is the court's verdict. The court finds you guilty of crimes against humanity, crimes against the Jewish people, war crimes, and membership in criminal organizations. Attorney General, you may address the sentence.
Judges of Israel, I am asking you to condemn this man to death. It is true that a death sentence does not match the enormity of the crimes presented in this trial, but a death sentence should be the least and the maximum we should sentence him for.
Please, Dr. Servitius.
President of the court and honorable judge, the defendant cannot serve as a substitute for the guilt of organizations or the guilt of an error. What happened to the defendant could happen to anyone. No one is immune. What happened to the German people could happen to any nation. I ask the court to consider this when determining the sentence.
Adolf Eichmann, would you like to add anything regarding the sentence?
I have heard the court's severe verdict of guilty. I see that I am to be disappointed in my hopes for justice. I cannot accept this guilty verdict. I understand the demand for atonement for the crimes perpetrated against the Jews. The witnesses' statements here in court made my heart sick again, just as it was sick when once, acting under orders, I had to look upon the atrocities. It was my misfortune to become entangled in these atrocities, but these misdeeds did not take place according to my wishes. In my introspective examination, I must ignore my sense of guiltlessness in the legal sense, and so I would ask the Jewish people, on a personal level, for forgiveness. I admit, I am overwhelmed with shame when I consider the evil committed against the Jews, the acts perpetrated against them. I am not the monster I am made out to be. I am the victim of an error in judgment. I was assaulted in Buenos Aires, tied to a bed for a week, then drugged with injections in my arms and brought to the airport in Buenos Aires to be flown out of Argentina to Israel. This can only be explained by the fact that I was considered to be the person responsible for everything. The reason for this is that the Nazis of the time and others spread untruths about me. They wanted to forgive themselves at my expense or to create confusion. That is the reason why I am here. I thank my counsel, who has insisted on my rights. I am utterly convinced that I must suffer here for others. I must bear what fate imposes on me.
On December 11th, 1961, after a 4-month recess, the judge brought his judgment. It was 8 months since the trial began. Finally, it was time for Eichmann to be judged. All rise!
Now, at long last, we have reached the sentencing. After considering the appropriate sentence for the defendant, with a deep sense of our responsibility, we have concluded that even if we had found that the defendant acted out of blind obedience, as he argued, we would still maintain that a man who has participated in crimes of such magnitude over the years must pay the maximum penalty known to the law. Every train the defendant sent to Auschwitz or any extermination site meant that the defendant was a direct accomplice to deliberate acts of murder. And the degree of his legal and moral responsibility for these acts of murder is not one iota less than the responsibility which, with his own hands, pushed these human beings into the gas chambers. The court sentences Adolf Eichmann to death.
Adolf Eichmann was sentenced to death. He appealed the decision, which was rejected on March 28, 1962. He then petitioned the Israeli president for a pardon, which was refused on May 31, 1962. This trial also allowed the Holocaust survivors to free themselves, to speak for the first time, and drew worldwide attention to the Shoah. On June 1, 1962, Adolf Eichmann was hanged for his crimes against the Jewish people. Under the gallows, before witnesses to the execution, he spoke his final words.
Long live Germany! Long live Austria! Long live Argentina! I owe a lot to these countries, and shall not forget them. I had to obey the rules of war and my flag.
When he was hanged, we took his body and put him in the crematorium. We were given back this little box of ashes. I remember thinking, how much of a human can be left and turned into such a small amount of dust? I just thought of the mountains of ashes that were piled up in Auschwitz. This must have been the last remain of perhaps 400,000 people. Then we took the boat at night to the international waters. We didn't want to have his ashes in the Israeli sea. Once a few miles within the international waters, we opened the box and emptied his ashes into the water. I even put some water inside the box to rinse whatever small dust was left inside. we went back to the port. In the early morning, when we arrived back at the port, the Namal, I saw some kids going to school, parents going to work, merchants opening their stores, men and women holding their hands. Witnessing this, after finding one of the worst criminals of all time, I said to myself, life is back. We won. The Trial of Adolf Eichmann, written by David Serero, Gideon Hausner and Zvi Aharoni by David Serero, Judge Landau by Ron Barba, Dr. Servatius and David Ben-Gurion by Bruce Biggins, Adolf Eichmann by Michael Takif, narrator Dr. Gilbert and Burzminski by Orlando Shelley, Yehiel Denur, narrator and Mossad agent by Harry Cook, directed and produced by David Serero.